Hello everybody, welcome to a new tutorial from Sound for More. It's Leo speaking. Today I'm going to explain how you can use the LFO and the envelope, which is available for each of the operators inside Nambu. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually to create a new preset. Like so. Nice and simple. And as a reminder, we have 6 operators, A to F. So I have the first one enabled. And if I scroll to the metrics, I have only the first one, which is producing an output, as we have seen in previous tutorials. Okay. So the first operator is operator A, and it is of type FM operator. So let's focus on the LFO and envelope section, which, as I just said, they are available for each of the operator. So first of all, there is a button which says expand here, and then also a button which says collapse here. So if you expand here, the LFO section, you then can collapse it, or you can expand the envelope section as well. So you can effectively shrink or expand these two sections depending on what you want to say. So let's focus on the LFO first. The first control that you have on the left hand side is def. Okay, so let's see how that sounds. Here we have the LFO acting straight away on the output of the operator itself. And remember, you also have additional sources for modulation here, which we will explore also in one of the next upcoming tutorials. You can also set the velocity, which is quite interesting. So let's set these to negative while we have the depth to maximum. So if I click down here at the bottom of a key, I have no modulation. If I click towards the top, I have the LFO, which is modulating the output. Okay, so that is quite interesting to see how you can use the velocity. Of course, you can do the opposite in the positive direction as well. You have rate, which is self-explanatory in milliseconds, but also you can synchronize that or sync that to, of course, your bits per minute, which is governed in this case by AUM. So. And of course, you can have it in milliseconds for more granular changes. You can randomize the level, which works extremely well, but also the timing. So you can randomize both, which is really nice. And then also you can change the type of waveform that the LFO is acting on the operator itself. So you can make the waveform a little bit shorter, like impulses. Oh, let's remove the time random. Okay, you can move to the right hand side where you can have more of an attack and release or decay effect on the waveform, so here's a little bit smoother. Up to this sawtooth style of waveform. Okay, let's put this somewhere there and a little bit above, so we have more of a smoother transition. Okay, so that is the LFO section, so let's collapse that and let's focus now on the envelope. So first of all, as you can see, we have a little bit more of an advanced envelope setup. We don't have just one attack and one release. We have 2 attacks, attack 1 and attack 2, as you can see, and we have time and level for each one of them. As well, we have decay and sustain as in the normal ADSR, but then we have for release 2 times, time 1 and time 2, and also level. So let's see how this works. So pay attention to the envelope graphical representation here. So first of all, you have the attack, which you can change like so. And let's remove the LFO def. And of course, this will give you more attack in terms of how the amplitude will move over time. so you can hear it much more there. Then you can change the level, as you can see it changing up here. And then you can add a second attack, like so, which is this part here, and you can adjust the level as well. You can change the sustain, so by default is maximum, but for example, you can have it down to 0, like so. And then you can change the decay. So this time here, from reaching the maximum of the sustain, so for reaching the maximum of the attack and then moving to the level of sustain. So in this case, it's going up as per 2 attacks time, and then it's coming down to the level of sustain, which is almost 0, which I can put it to 0, of course. Then you can decide also to change the release time, which is this part here, release 1. Change also the level for the release, like so, which, for example, we can go up to a maximum and then add a second time for release as well. And this is quite interesting because see what happens. I press a key, it goes up and then down. I let go the key, it still goes up, and then it comes down. Okay, depending, of course, on the timing that you have selected here. So it's quite nice. It's a little bit better than the normal ADSR that you find in some of the normal synths. Also, pay attention of these buttons here: copy, swap, and init. Okay, so let's go to operator B, which is a standard envelope. Now let's copy from A to B. So as you can see, we have now the same envelope that was in operator A, but copied into operator B. You can initialize that, and it will ask you for a confirmation. In this case, you have the initialize form of envelope. And just to check, operator A still as the modified envelope and operator B as the standard or init envelope waveform. You can swap as well. So in this case, swap between A to B. And as you can see, operator B now as the modified envelope and operator A as the default envelope. And again, you can swap them again, like so. Okay. What you can also do, you can use grouping, which is quite nice. Again, operator A at the moment as a modified envelope, operator B as the standard envelope. Now we can go to operator A and say this is group number 1, gray. And then we can go to operator number B and say this is also the same group, group 1, which is green. And as you can see, the actually envelope has changed as well for operator B. So that's nice, interesting as well. Now let's also have a look at, let's go to operator A. Let's have a look at also curves, which has been recently added to Nambu. So if you click on curves, here you have a scale dial and see what happens to the graphs here. So I increase the scale, you can change the curvature in both directions. And then what you can do, you can further customize for attack 1, 2, decay, release 1 and 2, the type of curvature, but you can do it individually. So for example, in this case, for attack 1 or for attack 2, which is that part here, or for the decay, which you can see changing there, and also for the release 1 and release 2. So really nice. It gives you smoother transition in terms of the envelope form or waveform. The other thing I want to show you, let's initialize that envelope like so. And you can apply envelope also to velocity or modulation. So let's increase the modulation depth again. At the moment it is coming straight in. And let's go to velocity and let's increase the attack 1. And now play a key. So you can hear that it's coming in slower because there is an attack on the velocity modulation. And for example, you can go to velocity and decrease the sustain level like so, and it will go up in terms of modulation, then it will drop as well. So in this way, you can actually apply velocity modulation using the same concept of the ADSR envelope, which I just explained on the amplitude a moment ago, which is quite nice. And notice that it can go in a positive or a negative way. So that is quite important in terms of how it affects the velocity modulation, and experiment with that. Hopefully That will be self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, please just drop a comment and I will answer it. And this is quite nice. Let's give you an example what you can create quickly. Let's initialize the sound, and let's change slightly the waveform there, like so, at depth to maximum. And what, for example, you can do is put the sustain down to 0 now. Which is quite nice. It gives you almost very quickly a new preset. And you can do things like, as explained a moment ago, increase a little bit time 1, the level of the release, and a little bit on time 2 for the release. And you can have things like press the key. Let it go. A little bit too quick. Let's increase time 1. Let go. So you can hear it goes slightly up and then it comes down. Let's increase again the both timing. Let's release the key. So you can hear it's coming up and down in terms of modulation. And then of course you can add some effects like reverb and delay, and you make a preset really nice. Let's increase the level a little bit more. And of course, it depends on the different timing that you have available on the release part of the envelope. Let it go. So really nice. Hopefully you agree with me that the Nambu is absolutely great in terms of a new synth. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, see you next time. Bye.